Let me ask Chakri. Yeah, let me ask. I'll check with Chakri.
He didn't take that.
Nobody takes Jagannath for Mr. Brother's card.
But then who,
All three are missing.
then who took it?
I am.
And Padmanabh, he doesn't know. Padmanabh, he doesn't.
Because last night we saved the morning garland for the evening. I know Radhakrishna took the second garland this morning to save for tonight.
So what do? We give this to the Samadhi or Shilgurde's Samadhi?
Oh,
What do we do?
can do.
I want to check with Chakri, see if he has extra garlands.
He may.
Yeah,
He didn't take any garlands this morning. Though.
No, he didn't. And there's usually a stash. So you want me to check real quick?
Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna. Whoa. Very loud.
Do you know whether we have a Canto 4?
Canto 4?
We do. First. Oh, is this it down here? Thank you. Yeah. I need all the empowerment I can get.
You're empowering us by your presence.
Good morning. Good morning. And Hare Krishna to everyone. Is this going to be too loud? When I get cranked up, it may be. So we may have to turn it down a little bit. Hare Krishna. My name is Rupa Nugadas, for those of you who have not yet met me. I'm a disciple of His Holiness Tamal Krishna Goswami Maharaj, and a grand disciple of His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Maharaj, Srila Prabhupada. This morning we're going to be reading in chapter 2 of Canto 4. We'll be covering text number 27 through 35, and then we'll come back and focus in on text number 33. You got that? Did you write that down? I can't even remember. So all of you are listening in from home, as I most of the time do. It's a great pleasure to know that you're here with us in cyberspace. Spirit soul is not limited by anything material. Is that correct? unless, of course, you happen to have a material body, in which case then you're quite limited. But anyhow, that we do have the technology available, and yesterday, most days we were able to see the speaker very clearly and hear the speaker, and we really appreciate Srinath Krishna Prabhu and his team of technology people who were able to get our system to working as well as it is now. And we welcome everybody here in the temple room. We're glad that you were able to come. Before we begin our reading, we'll do an invocational prayer. Jai Radha Madhava. Shall we do that? Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. A little faster. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Jaya Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivardhari. Jaya Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivardhari. Yashoda Nandana Braja Jana Ranjana. 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 Yamuna Tira Vanachari. Jamuna Tira Vanachari. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Jai Gaura Premananda. Hari Hari Bo. We've already said the Premadwani prayers, and so now we will begin. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Narayanam Namaskritya Naram Chaiva Narottamam Devim Saraswatim Yasan Tato Jayam Udirayat Nasta Presha Bandreshu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya Bhagavad Yatama Bhakti Bhaviri Naistiki Srimad Bhagavatam Grantaraj Srimad Bhagavatam Ki Jai. Canto 4, Chapter 2, text number 27. This chapter is entitled Daksha Curses Lord Shiva. It's a fiery chapter, and the one that comes after it is even more fiery. So we're going to be reading translations all the way through to the end of the chapter, text number 35. So the person that I want to begin reading the first verse, number 27, is Raseshwari. I've been hearing her chant on the internet, And now I want to hear her chant in real live person. Just a translation, Rasi Shireen. Give her a little help. Oh, it's not on yet. She doesn't need much help. She's pretty good.
When all the hereditary brahmanas were thus cursed by Nandisvara, the sage Brigu, as a reaction, condemned the followers of Lord Shiva with this very strong Brahminical curse.
Okay, so the hereditary brahmanas are being cursed by Lord Shiva's disciple, Nandishwar. And then the sage Brigu turns around and starts cursing am I saying this right? Starts to curse, let me get that right. As a reaction, condemn the followers of Lord Shiva. All right, Nandishwar was cursing Daksha and his followers. And so Brigu, as a reaction, condemned the followers of Lord Shiva. So cursing and counter-cursing. And with this very strong Brahminical curse. All right, next person to read, please.
One who takes a vow to satisfy Lord Shiva or who follows such principles will certainly become an atheist and be diverted from transcendental scriptural injunctions.
It sounded more like a prophecy than a curse, didn't it? Okay, 29.
29. Those who vow to worship Lord Shiva are so foolish that they imitate him by keeping long hair on their heads. When initiated into worship of Lord Shiva, they prefer to live on wine, flesh, and other such things.
Nasty, nasty curse. Ooh, man, what could he be thinking? You know, cursing the followers of Lord Shiva like that. All right, text number 30.
Bhrigu Muni continued, since you blaspheme the Vedas and the Brahmanas, who are the followers of the Vedic principles, it is understood that you have already taken shelter of the doctrine of atheism.
Okay, very good. 31.
The Vedas give the eternal regulative principles for auspicious advancement in human civilization, which have been rigidly followed in the past. The strong evidence of this principle is the Supreme Personality of Godhead, who is called Janardhana, the well-wisher of all living entities.
Okay, very good. Text number 32.
By blaspheming the principles of the Vedas, which are pure and supreme path, the saintly person, certainly you followers of Bhupati, Lord Shiva, will descend to the standard of atheism without a doubt.
Bhutapati. You know, when I read this, I realized that I did not remember having read this before, that Lord Shiva was known as also as Bhutapati. Okay, text number 33.
The saga Maitreya said, when such cursing and counter-cursing was going on between Lord Shiva followers and the parties of Daksha and Bhrigu, Lord Shiva became very morose. Now saying anything, he left the arena of the sacrifice, followed by his disciples.
Okay, good. That's 33, and we're going to come back to that in just a minute. 34, please.
The sage Maitreya continued, O Vidura, all the progenitors of this universal population thus executed a sacrifice for thousands of years. For sacrifice is the best way to worship the Supreme Lord, Hari, the personality of Godhead.
And we're going to find it interesting that the persons who were performing the sacrifice and those who were participating in it just carried on even after all this cursing and counter-cursing. They said, well, let's get on with our business, you know. Enough of this. Okay, 35.
My dear Vidura, carrier of bows and arrows, all the demigods who were performing the sacrifice took their bath at the confluence of the Ganges and Yamuna. After completing the yajna performance, such a bath is called Avabhrita Snana. After thus becoming purified in the heart, they departed for their respective abodes.
Okay, there's another incident in which a large group of people were going to the river to perform this Avabhrita Snana. And this was at the end of the Battle of Kurukshetra, in which Yudhishthira Maharaj, who was king, and his brothers and his wives and other associates, they came to the river to help to free them from the sins that they had to commit in the Battle of Kurukshetra. Okay, now let us go back over to text number 33. And I think we'll do word-for-word translations. I'll have you repeat after I say the verse, or the text, and then right after that we'll have the translations. So let us begin. Maitreya Uvacha. Maitreya said, Tasya, of him, evam, thus, Varata, being spoken, Shapam, curse, Brigo, of Brigu, Sa, he, Nischakrama. Did I skip one? I beg your pardon. Bhagavan, the possessor of all opulences. Bhava, Lord Shiva. Nischakrama, went. Tata, from there. Kinchit, somewhat. Vimana, morose. Eva, as. Sa anuga, followed by his disciples. And I'll read the translation once again. The sage Maitreya said, when such cursing and counter-cursing was going on between Lord Shiva's followers and the parties of Daksha and Brigu, Lord Shiva became very morose. Not saying anything, he left the arena of sacrifice, followed by his disciples. Justadumna Prabhu, would you please read the purport?
Report. Here Lord Shiva's excellent character is described. In spite of the cursing and counter-cursing between the parties of Daksha and Shiva, because he is the greatest Vaishnava, he was so sober that he did not say anything. Vaishnava is always tolerant, and Lord Shiva is considered the topmost Vaishnava. So his character, as shown in this scene, is excellent. He became morose because he knew that these people, both his men and Daksha's, were unnecessarily cursing and counter-cursing one another, without any interest in spiritual life. From his point of view, he did not see anyone as lower or higher, because he is a Vaishnava, as stated in Bhagavad Gita 5.18, Pandita Samudarshina. One who is perfectly learned does not see anyone as lesser or greater, because he sees everyone from the spiritual platform. Thus, the only alternative left to Lord Shiva was to leave, in order to stop his follower, Nandishvara, as well as Bhrigu Muni, from cursing and counter-cursing in that way.
So that was the reason for Lord Shiva's leaving the assembly, because he wanted to end the cursing and counter-cursing. Om Jnana Timirandasya Gyananjana Salakaya Chakchul Militam Jena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namah Shri Chaitanya Manobishtam Stapitam Jena Bhutale Swayam Rupaha Kadamaya Dadati Swavarantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Dutta Padakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunathan Vitam Tam Sajivam Savadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padam Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakan Vitamscha He Krishna Karana Sando Dinabando Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Taptakanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye. Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasari Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare. And now to my spiritual master. Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Pristaya Bhutale Srimate Tamar Krishna Go Samaniti Namane.
Dear devotees, you're about to see something shocking. You may have never seen this or witnessed this in Srimad Bhagavatam class. But I'd like you to stay seated and just listen.
Cursing and counter-cursing. And it seems to me that one of the sources of problems for this community has been the young people coming into it. For example, the young people that we have seated with us today. They don't know any of the rules to follow. They haven't yet chosen the spiritual master, perhaps. And they are sometimes troublesome because especially the young women don't know how to properly act around men, and therefore they seem to have a very casual relationship with men, and that's very disturbing then to the minds of the men of the community. And of course the young men have their own problems as well because they come in maybe tempered by the Western society that we're in. And that doesn't form a nice basis for being able to deal with women properly.
It seems the elderlies in your group have no problem criticizing all of the young devotees. And, I mean, seems like you guys just go around destroying this enthusiasm that we have for our spiritual lives. You know, I don't think that senior devotees should go around looking down on all of the younger devotees. You know, we're learning, and you guys were once young devotees. So I just don't see why there's any reason to come and destroy the enthusiasm that we have to gain our spiritual growth.
Well, look, I'm looking at yourself, and I wish the cameras could focus on you, because you happen to be one of those beautiful young women that come into our community, and here you are, very nicely dressed, and your head is not covered, and you're wearing very fancy clothes. And so you're extremely attractive. So unless you have learned to follow the principles properly of being in a community such as this, you're going to make mistakes.
Well, I've seen you out and about, just wearing your street clothes, carrying your guns. You know, you old conservative fool. I've seen you talking to women alone. In secluded areas. I've never, you know, which that stuff isn't okay, but you seem to be going around and doing it.
Well, that may be true, but then we find that, you know, the young people fail to recognize and to have the correct, let's see, how do we say, the proper respectful behavior toward the older people. And I've known, you know, a few men in this community and maybe in other communities too, who were maybe seduced a little bit by the nice attention that they were given by young persons, and I'm sure that that's probably happened with young men as well.
I disagree. I think that the older men in the community find every opportunity to find a woman and then individually talk to them, secluded in a space where they're alone, and I don't think that that's right.
Well, you know, as I see it, it's from a lack of proper training. So if you do have a mentor, if you have a spiritual master, then it appears that that person has not done a very thorough job of training you how to act in the association of other devotees.
Well, it seems your spiritual master is the one that taught you how to act like this, and I have a feeling that he just doesn't give any good advice.
Well, everything begins at the top, doesn't it? And if you're not given the proper instructions by your spiritual authority, then you're going to cause problems wherever you go. Now, I would like for Nanda Brush to speak.
So what you've witnessed is Rupanuga at first, he's criticizing a group of devotees, the younger group. And Melissa, in return, she is criticizing the other group or the elderly group. And then you've seen Rupanuga start to personally attack Melissa, and then Melissa returns with personally attacking Rupanuga Prabhu. Then Rupanuga Prabhu goes to the mentor of Melissa, or the spiritual authorities, and then Melissa returns with questioning the spiritual authority or the spiritual master of Rupanuga Prabhu. This was all a play for everyone on YouTube.
Let's give Melissa a hand. She did well. She happens to be one of the younger people in our community here, and we're very happy that she has chosen to be here with us. And this was practically extemporaneous. Could you give me some water, please? Many times in the past, my wife tells me of incidents in which our children have been wrongfully accused, wrongfully attacked by other people. And I've heard that has occurred just recently as well, in the past week or so. Thank you very much, Bruce. A little hint for those of you who might find yourself giving a talk or giving classes. It's said that when you speak, you get rid of about 1 pint of fluid in your body per hour by your breath going out. So that's the reason that, for talk shows and that sort of thing, they always have a cup. And you wonder, what do they have in that cup? Do they have wine, or do they have soda, or do they have coffee or something in there? Usually it's just water, because everything else tends to choke up. So you may wonder what I've been into this morning. Just water. Gun toady. What we were interested in doing was to create a situation in which people that we deal with every day are accosted or accused by someone who really has no business accusing. So I would like to ask you, what do we do whenever we are accused by someone of doing something wrong? What's the proper way for us as Vaishnavas to react? That is a question to be answered.
My first reaction when I saw this was, you can have a difference of opinion, different ideas, but please just make sure your exchanges are respectful. Because if you truly believe that there's divinity in everybody, then you really wouldn't want to hurt a devotee or non-devotee.
Okay, one moment.
When she first saw the play, her thought was that we really need to respect each other, because the divinity of within us is both in devotees and non-devotees. Be respectful.
I guess you're wondering why this man is sitting here close to me. At my age, the hearing is way gone, And so the high frequency sounds I quite often miss. But anyhow, yeah, when this debate or when this encounter first began, some of you probably thought that's not a very nice way to address a person, especially a person as new as Melissa, as new as Melissa is to the community. And I have to give her praise for even taking on this responsibility. Because that's not an easy thing to do, especially when you're going up against an old person, right, who's supposed to know everything and do everything right. But that doesn't always occur, does it? So that was one thing that we have to remember, is that we have respect for the other. But what else can we do whenever we are faced with someone who is saying mean things about us, or maybe somebody that we care about? Yes, please. Microphone.
Thank you. Hare Krishna. Yeah, I like Mataji's point. I was also thinking that we can accept what this person is saying and just try to hear the message rather than the tone that it is coming, and accept that it is Krishna speaking through someone, though it might be difficult to hear. And
why do you choose the very hardest thing to do? Isn't that hard? Isn't it hard just to accept it as something coming to us that we're due?
Yes.
And this person is not to blame for making me feel really rotten, but rather it's something that I've done in the past, and Krishna is engaging this person and bringing to me the reactions that I have to take. That is really hard to bring yourself to do, especially when somebody is right there in front of you telling you everything that is true that is not so good.
Yeah, yes, and even going beyond like, oh, I deserve this or something like this, just seeing it as Krishna is trying to tell me something, but I cannot hear because I am listening too much to how it is coming off. So, yeah, just seeing it more as just Krishna speaking through someone.
Really hard. Someone else. Suggestion. I want Drista Dumna to speak, please.
Can you repeat the question?
The question? Let's see if I can remember it. What are other ways that we can whenever we encounter someone who is really shooting arrows at us, darts, nasty words, what are other ways besides the two that have been mentioned, remembering the divinity in each person and also accepting what has come to us as a result of our own past misdeeds?
I was thinking I'd probably leave until I'm no longer emotionally invested in it, and I'd take time to think. I'd take time to let it settle down before I even respond back to them. So hopefully when I do respond, it'll be in like a more clear-headed space.
Okay, leave instead of reacting right there on the spot and trying to defend yourself. Just turn and walk away. You can even offer a little gesture of respect to the person and just turn and walk away. And it takes time to learn to do those things, because we are quite often, especially in the early part of our association with devotees of the Lord, we find that we are very much reactive. We're very defensive of our positions, and we learn to do that, to be that way when we're out there in the society, do we not? We have to. Otherwise, what do they say? If you don't stand up for yourself, somebody just trample all over you. But when we come into the association of devotees, we find that anything that makes us feel bad, which means any criticism, either just or not, is not coming essentially, in essence, from the person who is right in front of us, barking at us, but rather it's coming from something that we've done in the past. And Lord Krishna is just using this other person to help free us of reactions that we had to take. And as we understand it, devotees of the Lord have those reactions quite often minimized by the Lord. In other words, instead of cutting off your hand, you scratch your finger or something like that. That's an example of that. But it's just one of the hardest things in the world, isn't it? To be faced with a detractor who is saying all kinds of bad things about your work, your family, anything that is associated with you, because we have such a close affiliation with those things that we consider to be ours. Our house, our car, our child, our wife, our husband. And so we are naturally inclined to put up a big defensive front. That takes a while to overcome. What is the best way to overcome that defensiveness? That's not a rhetorical question. I'd like an answer, please. Microphone over here. Yes, Prabhu. Hold the mic up like this. Hold the mic at your mouth.
Realization is very different. Very different about the, to look something, intellectually. Young people, they don't have the same realization, even if they never have been here in the temple. But they got knowledge from many experience, you know what I mean? You cannot compare Rupanuga with you, with me, I think this is not right. Respect means to have knowledge, to understand what Rupanuga is, what Lord Krishna is, what Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada is. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada once was talking about the likes. This life is not about likes. It's about obediences. And that's what in Krishna consciousness I have learned. You know what I mean? Instinct of think the situation should be under my choice. Whatever I can think, that's what I should get. No, that's what I should understand. You know what I mean?
Okay,
let
me respond to that, please. Yeah, many times in the past, there have been persons who didn't know us very well. They might not have known what difficulty we were going through. Brief personal example. When my wife and I first came here in '79, our third child was just 3 months old. And as soon as we came here, he began having seizures. So for the next 5 months, we were in and out of Children's Medical Center with a lot of problems. Then everything just built up, and we didn't pass the test. This was a test that was being given by Radha Kalachandji. But at that time, I felt that nobody in the community understood what my wife was having to go through. And they were expecting her to be one to take care of the other children while the parents went out on Sankirtan to raise funds. So took me a while. We even moved away from the community at that time, and we were planning to move to the New Taliban, the farm in Mississippi, which was very close to the place that both of us had been brought up. But after we got there and stayed there for about 7 months, we received messages from our spiritual master, Tamal Krishna Goswami. He said, what you're asking for and the fact that you've left the community has caused us to rethink things regarding the householders in our community. And now our board, our temple council, has decided that all the householder men and women should go out and raise money for their families, pay for their own residences, their own food, everything else, and give whatever is left over, give whatever time you could to the temple. So we said, yes, that's what we want to do. So we came back here and bought a house that was just 1 block away. And so we've been on that block over there now since 1980. And because of this person, our spiritual master, having that kind of mercy on us, you know, he could have said, all right, they don't want to stay, they don't want to follow the rules, they don't want to participate, let them go. He could have said that, and he probably should have. Or maybe he did. But anyhow, something changed his mind, and he invited us back. So that's what we call compassion. And whenever we're dealing with other people, even if they're right in front of us barking at us, we need to feel some compassion for them, because we don't know what they're going through. Just like this community didn't know what my wife and I were going through, having to be down at the Children's Medical Center for 5 months, our first 5 months here. And incidentally, that happened to be one of the hottest summers on record for the city of Dallas. It was said that the temperature rose above 110 degrees 13 days in a row during that summer. And there were over 100 days that summer in which the temperature exceeded 100 degrees. So here was Krishna hammering us, giving us a sick child, giving us the very uncomfortable temperatures, not a very steady place to live. You've seen these houses. We've talked about them in the past. They were just decrepit. And this is what we had to live in. But this was Krishna's test. It was like him saying, Rupanuga, you really want to be here in this community? You want to be close to me? And so my first answer was, no, Lord, too many problems. Too many problems. And so that goes also with people's attitudes. Sometimes we feel that we're getting a very bad attitude from other people, and we think maybe they don't like us, and maybe we should just get the heck out of here. And I'm afraid that there have been some people who were very innocent, good people that left the community because they were not treated nicely with the proper etiquette for devotees. The witching hour has come. It's now 20 past 8. So I'd like to ask, does anyone have any comments or any more questions or anything? Mother Kunti is back there, and she needs a microphone, because everybody wants to hear Mother Kunti online. It's not on, babe.
Hi, Bill. Rupanuga, thank you so much. We were all seeing off Jacaranda and Mother Tulsi Saki, so I missed that first fireworks that were going on in here.
Did you leave then?
Pardon me?
Did you leave because of the fireworks?
It was like I had two reasons. Because Jacaranda and his wife are gone for 5 weeks, and we were seeing them off. So I want to thank you for what I've heard of the class, but going back to your question, how do you respond? What was that, your question? How do you respond if someone yells at you or treats you harshly? Was that your question?
We could say not only that, but anytime we face a very difficult situation in our spiritual lives that have to do especially with the community itself, what do we do?
Okay.
What you've been here a long time. What have you done to stay?
Well, it's kind of like in a hurricane, and I don't know if anyone's been through a hurricane or high winds, but you have to hold on. And what you're holding on to is the lotus feet of Guru and Krishna, because the prize is worth it. Even if we are being hurt a lot. We have to remember the goal. So that's all I've got for that one. I just wanted to follow up on your question, which was
Thank you very
good.
much, Ms. Goody. Let me also say here that if anybody has any if you need advice, if you need to talk with somebody, this lady can be available to you. Yes, Prabhu.
In my own experience here and around the world where I have been, and I have noticed that when I am working, I get less entangled. You know what I mean? About to describe intellectually the world and the people and the nation. That's right. You know what I mean? Then working for Krishna consciousness also, it has given me this kind of experience. I think for the young people, I am 67 years old. For the young people, I will advise to work for Lord Krishna, for the temple, for the devotees. In that way, you or we are not entangled about, intellectual perfections. You know what I mean? Choices. The only way to get realization is through the job. And we are doing to Lord Krishna. And for everybody, people who are working and giving money to dignify their lives, the three, to live, to eat, to have shelter, and to defend ourselves. Karma are doing that. And Krishna consciousness, from Krishna consciousness was the origin of this Bharatan Ram. Then my only advice is work for Lord Krishna. That's it.
Thank you very much. Would you give the microphone to Manjari Gopika Devi?
Hare Krishna. I don't have too much insight, but thank you so much for being here, by the way, Rupanuga Prabhu.
It's your fault.
Your classes are always so next level. And I appreciate that you're bringing this, making this a topical kind of thing, that the cursing and the counter-cursing has been, among devotees, has been going on for thousands of years. But I was just thinking about some things I've recently read, like in Giriraj Swami's book, I'll Build You a Temple. There was one incident he describes, I know you've read that book, Prabhu, where one of his godbrothers, he had this anger building in him, and he just started screaming at Giriraj Swami, got right in his face, and Giriraj Swami didn't respond, and then the godbrother spat in Giriraj Swami's face. And I remember reading that, my jaw, and Rasishri was with me, and our jaws just dropped. Like, first of all, who would do that? And who would do that to Giriraj Swami? And it's a godbrother. And we're just like flipping the page, like, what did he do next? And Giriraj Swami said, he just started chanting really loudly. He just chanted really, really loudly, and walked away. And obviously we're not Giriraj Swami, but I just thought that he immediately went to turning his mind to Krishna, and obviously that's what Krishna would want him to do, is to walk away. And there was this other incident in the book Maharaj shared, and he also said it in a class here in September, that Shyam Sundar Prabhu wrote a letter to Srila Prabhupada, and he was having difficulty with working with a certain other devotee. And Prabhupada's reply was, there will be another ISKCON in the sky, and Shyam Sundar will be there, and that other Prabhu will be there, and Giriraj will be there. Only Mr. Nair, he will not go. But I always think back to that when I'm having difficulties with other devotees that, we don't vibe. I always think, but there's going to be another ISKCON in the sky, and we're going to have to get along there. So I need to figure out how to get along here.
That's a good point. Good points. One of the senior women in our community made the statement one time. My wife happened to hear it, and she repeated it to me, and that was that our children, we all had children, So our children were sometimes getting into squabbles. And so this senior lady, I think this was Mother Leela, Maternat Prabhu's wife, who made the statement to another lady that, look, you know, pretty soon our kids are going to be grown and gone from this community. And so we should not let what goes on between our kids get between us or cause some friction between us as the mothers. And I think that's probably good advice for anybody who comes and joins this community. That you know, if you have children, you're going to do the best you can for them, and you want to protect them as much as possible. But on the other hand, the other children who are in this community, you should also look on them as your own children and be compassionate toward them. Anything else?
May I ask a question, Prabhu?
Nanda Braj Prabhu wants to speak.
Ask a question if you mind. I heard you mention that as devotees we can look at a situation that this is my karma and Krishna is lessening it. And then I heard you mention that we can also see things as a test by Krishna, as you did and your wife did. And my question is one is a reaction of the three modes of material nature, done by action and reaction of this material nature, and one is the divine absolute truth in Krishna touching our lives. So how do we understand these two different things as possibilities, how to see things? Is it Krishna's divine hand, or is it karma's, the actions of material nature?
Either way, what comes to us in the form of suffering in this material world is whose fault? Me. My fault. If it's something that's coming to bother me in some way, if someone is not being very nice and kind to me, if the temple president is not doing things as I think he should do, if the pujari department is not opening the curtain on time just as I think it should, we should be very careful in criticizing other people. Because that criticism is going to come back on us. It'll come back in some form or another. I know I have been the recipient of getting that kind of reaction from who knows where because of the way I acted toward another devotee. Yes, please.
So a devotee that is in ISKCON or maybe in a community of it, if they've been, cheated or manipulated or abused by ISKCON, is that their karma or their fault?
We understand that when a person comes and claps his hands one time in kirtan, that erases all the lines from his palms. Do you know what that means? That means your future sins are being now not taken care of by Maya Devi, which means Krishna's material energy. But your reactions, because you are submitting to the Supreme Lord, even by just saying something nice to a devotee, little things like that, does not go beyond Krishna's attention. And so if there's something that we need correcting, and Krishna wants to help us, he can allow us to take some portion of a reaction that we had coming to us from all the myriad selections of what we've done in the past. In other words, it's Krishna's Mahamaya it takes care of the reactions for those persons who have not shown any desire to serve the Supreme Lord or to even recognize that he is there. But when a person does show that recognition and says, my dear Lord, I want to do something for you. Then Krishna takes your reactions and will give them to you in little bits and pieces as you need them to turn. In other words, we're going to make mistakes along the way because we come to the temple with so much baggage, so many desires that we still have when we come to the temple community. And so when Krishna sees that those desires are leading us astray, he will let us take our reactions. Maybe not from that particular moment, but for some moment in the past, he will give us that. Krishna will not make you suffer for no good reason. He will not do it. If he did, he would be unjust. And we know Krishna not to be unjust. He's not going to make us suffer for what Adam and Eve did, as the Christians would have us think. Or some people in the Christian church interpret things that way. They say for the sins of the original couple in this world, everybody else after them has got to suffer. That's not fair. You know, if your parents caused trouble in society, one of your parents, like if my father was a drunkard and a thief, you know, Krishna's not going to make me suffer for that. Now, I will suffer because I have to live in the house of a person who's a drunkard and a thief. That's bad enough. But that also is coming not just from some random selection. I mean, that, you know, when my parents had sexual intercourse and then I was conceived as a result of that. That was not random. I was sent into that household for a particular reason. So whatever suffering is coming to us, we're due it. Do you understand? It is ours, and we've got to pay for it. When we offer ourselves to Krishna, Krishna takes over all of our past reactions and will give them to us as we need them. Is that okay? Otherwise, Krishna's not playing fair. And we know that Krishna plays fair. He's a good person. He loves us. He cares about us. And he wants us out of this stinking material world. Which wouldn't be a stinking material world if there weren't so many mistakes being made with the use of resources in there. Anything else? One last point, one last question.
It's 8:35, so I think this will be the last question or comment.
Make it brief, because we're out of time.
Do you consider the mode of the nature the origin of the karma? Do you understand my question?
I'm sorry?
Do you consider the origin of the karma, the mode of the nature is the origin of the karma? This is my question for you.
I don't understand the question. Nandabraj, restate the question.
So from what I understood, Prabhu said, is the modes of material nature the origin of karma?
Well, we understand that the modes of nature were brought about to make this world what it is, to give us the opportunity to look for happiness in the absence of Krishna. And when we're looking for happiness outside of Krishna, then that means we're dealing with the material energy of Krishna. And here's the point. Anything that we do in this material world to try to bring happiness to us is going to have some negative effect unless it is associated with Krishna. Anything, purchasing a new car, getting a wife or a husband, having children, all those things, you know, there's going to be a little bit of pleasure in there, but then just like with that new car, it's going to get old, it's going to require repairs, it's going to cost us money, and that's not a pleasant thing. So, anything that we do in this material world, especially if we're using someone else, or we're using some chemical substance to find happiness in our lives, we're going to pay a price for that. If we're using Christians' material energy to try to find happiness for ourselves, there's going to be a price to pay.
Okay.
For the devotees,
Sorry, go ahead.
Go ahead, please.
Well, what I'm trying to tell you is the verse in Bhagavad Gita, Davi hiesham gunamai mama maya daratyaya mameva ye prapadyante mayamitam tarantite. Shri Krishna tells us that this divine energy of mind, consisting of the three modes of material nature, is very difficult to overcome. But one who surrenders unto me can easily cross beyond it. Sorry to interrupt.
Thank you, Brother Kunti. Also, we have to remember what Krishna said when he was talking to Arjuna out on the battlefield after he showed him his universal form. He says, understand that all of these material wonders that you see here, the entire material creation, springs but from a spark of my splendor. Krishna is in total control of our lives, and if we let him do so, then he will show us how to become happy in this material world. Hare Krishna. All right, let me repeat something that I've heard that Srimati Radharani said. Someone asked Radharani, "What is the most valuable thing in this entire material creation?" And you know what Radharani said, according to what I've heard? Suffering. Suffering. The most valuable thing, because it's only when we get to the point of suffering that we start asking the questions that make us human beings, like, who am I? Where did I come from? What am I supposed to be doing here? What happens after I leave? Where am I going to go? So all of those questions then, they come about to a large extent, like the four kinds of persons, pious persons surrendered to the Supreme Lord. So it's the suffering thing that helps us probably as much as anything else to turn our heads and then look for some source of relief. My dear Lord, I can't handle it myself. So we will end now, and we will offer our respectful obeisances to all the Vaishnava devotees of the Lord who are just like desire trees and who fulfill the desires of everyone. Vanchakalpatarubhyascha kripasindubhya eva cha patitanam pavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namah. Anantakoti Vaishnavrinda ki jai. Thank you all very much for being here, and for those online for listening in. We appreciate your presence. Hare Krishna.